स्वागत करुच्ची आज संध्या को एवं आम मान गहन आमर अतिथिवृंद उपस्थित आज मंच को स्वागत करुचु। यही अवसर में आज सभा को आम मान भितर आमर मान्यवर जज ओडिशा हाईकोर्ट श्रीयुक्त संजीव कुमार पाणिग्राही महोदय एवं आम मान गहन आमर जड़े वरिष्ठ आईनजीवी सीनियर एडवोकेट उपस्थित अच्छा एवं आमर ये अधिवक्ता परिषदर सभापति अजित भाई अजित पट्टनायक एवं संपादक देवाशीष त्रिपाठी एवं अधिवक्ता परिषदर भाइस प्रेसिडेंट ए मंच को निमंत्रण कर सभार प्रारंभ आमर निर्धारित कार्यक्रम अनुसार मु मंचासीन अतिथि मान को अनुरोध रखुची दीप प्रज्वलन पे। वर्तमान आमर जातीय संगीत वंदे मातरम गान करा अनुरोध करी समस्त अनुरोध कर पार्थ सारथ नायक वंदे मातरम।
वंदे मातरम वंदे मातरम सुजलां सुफलां मलयज शीतलां सस्यश्यामलां मातरं वन्दे मातरं शुभ्र ज्योत्स्ना पुलकितयामिनी कुसुमिता द्रुमदल शोभिनी सुहासिनी सुमधुर भासिनी सुखदां वरदां मातरं वन्दे मातरं कोटि कोटि कंठ कल कल निनाद कराले कोटि कोटि भुजई धृत खर करवाले अबला के नुमाए तो बले बहुबलधारिणीं नमामि तारिणीं रिपुदलवारिणीं मातरं वन्दे मातरम्। तुमि विद्या तुमि धर्म तुमि हृदि तुमि मर्म त्वां हि प्राण शरीरे बहुते तुमे मां शक्ति हृदये तुमे मां भक्ति तुम्हारी प्रतिमा गढ़ी मंदिरे मंदिरे वंदे मातरम। त्वं हि दुर्गा दश प्रहरण धारिणी कमला कमलदल विहारिणी वाणी विद्यादायिनी नमामि त्वां नमामि कमला अमलां अतुलां सुजलां सुफलां मातरं वन्दे मातरम्। श्यामलां सरलां सुस्मितां भूस्मितां धरणी भरणी मातरं वन्दे मातरं वन्दे मातरम। भारत माता की जय।
कार्यक्रम प्रारंभ में श्री विभूत मिश्र को अनुरोध कर अतिथि मान परिचय करा।
सम्मानास्पद सभापति महोदय, उपस्थित मुख्य अतिथि डॉक्टर जस्टिस संजीव पाणिग्राही, मुख्य वक्ता श्रीयुक्त बासुदेव पंडा, मुख्य आमर मुख्य एवं उपस्थित सज्जन मंडल, ये जो कार्यक्रम मत जेहेतु गोटे दायित्व मर्यादाजनक दायित्व अर्पण कराई अतिथि मानकर परिचय निमंते एथि मु निजक कृतज्ञ मन करुछि। सर्वप्रथम मु आजिर संध्यार मुख्य आकर्षण मुख्य अतिथि श्रीयुक्त डॉक्टर जस्टिस संजीव पाणिग्राही संपर्क में सम्यक सूचना देवी। संपर्क में सूचना दबा हुए तो मो पक्ष यथेष्ट हम ना विषय जिते कहले भी से कम। तथापि से न्यायमूर्ति हिसाब से ओडिशा हाईकोर्ट 2020 मसीह एलिवेटेड हेबा परे से बहु कार्यक्रम बहु मोकद्दमा विभिन्न राय प्रकाश करछंती एवं जहाँकि लिपिबद्ध हो रही एवं तांकर कार्य करिवार शैली एवं तांकर जो गोटे जिनस को निश्चित भाव में प्रशंसा करी जे तांकर जो कंप्लीट जस्टिस जहाँकि से सब गुरुत्वारोप करती से कौन केस निकट में आसू सी केवे चाहती जे सेटा को से स्टेज कौन भाव में डिस्पोज अफ करी मोकद्दमा से खत्म करी तांकर जो शेष पर्यंत अर्थात रिजॉइंडर फाइल है पर्यंत एवं कार्य सरीवा पर्यंत जेपरी लोक कंप्लीट जस्टिस पाइब सब्सटेंसिव जस्टिस मिलिबो से दिगरे तांकर जो प्रचेष्टा सेटा को आम समस्त पसंद करूँ बार भी पसंद करे एवं आउ तांको विषय आउ पदे कथा कहया गले तांको केबे मु देखिनी के कोर्ट रे कौन केस रे हम टेक्निकलिटीज रे तांको बांधी दबो से टेक्निकलिटी जो टू ऊर्ध्व को सबले जानती एवं जदि कौन टेक्निकलिटीज रास्ता रे थाए से इग्नोर करी सब्सटेंसिव जस्टिस से काम करती ऑर्डर भी करती सब कौन लिमिटेशन पॉइंट रे आमे केबे कौन जगह जदि चेष्टा करू अटकेवा किंतु जदि जस्टिस पाइबार थिबो से निश्चित जीवे एवं से टेक्निकाली ओवरकम करी जस्टिस देवे आउ गोटे तांकर दृढ़ एवं कार्य करिवार शैली रे सी जो तांकर काहारी पाखरे मुंड नुआइबार परिवर्तन है जे के भी हो हुएवर ही मे भी तांकर जो जस्टिस करिवार से जस्टिस करिवे एई सब गुण ताछड़ा तांकर जजमेंट एवं अन्य कार्यकलाप विषय एवं कैरियर विषय प्राय समस्त जानिचंती विशेष कहबार प्रयोजन पड़ू नाही तापरे हमर आजिर मुख्य वक्ता श्रीयुक्त पंडा हमर सीनियर एडवोकेट से तो जड़े लुमिनारी तांकर ये जो टैक्स विषय रे अवदान एवं नंबर ऑफ केसेस तांकर टैक्स जो थे से निजको निजे कंट्रीब्यूट करछंती बहुत एवं ए संपर्क रे मु कहवा मो पक्षरे धृष्टता हेबो जदियो मोर विशेष टैक्स प्रैक्टिस नाही किंतु जेबे भी मु ताको प्रोफेशन ने देखिछि टैक्स विषय रे एवं तांकर आजिर ये जो कार्यक्रम रे तांकर विशेष महत्व रही कहीं आम न जानी लोक एवं किसी जानी लोक से समस्त निश्चित भाव से किसी कहे एवं इनकम टैक्स जो टॉपिक आज रखाई इनकम टैक्स रिटर्न ड्यूटी टुवर्ड्स नेशन बिल्डिंग ए संपर्क से निश्चित भाव में आमको एनलाइटन करेंगे। तृतीय आज सभापति कार्यक्रम भाई से जो सांगठनिक तथा से आमर आज मुख्य से तांकरी अजित कुमार पट्टनायक तांकरी ये रे कार्यक्रम एवं तांकरी कार्यधारा एवं तांकरी द्वारा अनुप्राणित ही आमर बोधे ये 3 नंबर सेमिनार है आज एवं कंटिन्यूअसली सेमिनार हो चलती मु निश्चित भाव आशा करी सभापति आमको ये दिगरे निश्चित भाव में आमको एनकरेजमेंट देवे एवं कार्यक्रम चालू रहिबो ये रास्ता आरंभ ही मात्र तापरे आजिर वाइस प्रेसिडेंट श्रीमती संगमित्रा राजगुरु एडवोकेट मु विशेष जानी नहीं किंतु से जड़े निश्चित भाव में सांगठनिक एवं तांकर सहयोग आम सब बेले देखुचु एवं सब समय से आम सहित उपस्थित अच्छा विषय विशेष किसी कहवा मो पक्षरे तो समीचीन हो न पारे एवं आज आमर जो अधिवक्ता परिषद संपादक श्रीयुक्त देवाशीष त्रिपाठी एडवोकेट एवं से प्रवीण आईनिज्ञ तथा जड़े प्रवीण सांगठनिक तांकरी सांगठनिक उद्यम एवं सहायता सबु कार्यक्रम चली से आगू आमको ये संपर्क में सब सहयोग करेंगे एति आशा करूँ कौन प्रकार जदि मु मोर दायित्व तुलाइबारे कौन त्रुटि विच्युति करें मत निश्चित भाव में क्षमा करेंगे।
पारंपरिक नीति अनुसार वर्तमान आमर अतिथि मानक पुष्पगुच्छ प्रदान पर्व ये अवसर में मु राजलक्ष्मी मिश्र अनुरोध रखुच्छी पुष्पतोड़ गुच्छ आमर मान्यवर न्यायाधीश जस्टिस पाणिग्राही को प्रदान करने सहित सुशांत शेखर महापात्र रखुच्छी से आमर सीनियर एडवोकेट बासुदेव पंडा सार को पुष्पगुच्छ प्रदान करने मानस रंजन पात्र रखुच्छी आमर प्रेसिडेंट अजित कुमार पट्टनायक को पुष्पगुच्छ प्रदान करने एवं राजलक्ष्मी विश्वाल को पुणी थे अनुरोध रखुच्छी आमर भाइस प्रेसिडेंट संघमित्रा राजगुरु को पुष्पगुच्छ प्रदान करने अविनाश भाई अविनाश खेड़िया भाई को रखुच्छी आमर पुष्पगुच्छ देवाशीष त्रिपाठी आम संपादक अधिवक्ता परिषद पुष्पगुच्छ कार्यक्रम परवर्ती पर्व आम वेलकम एड्रेस जोटाक अच्छी आमर मो देवाशीष त्रिपाठी संपादक अधिवक्ता परिषद को अनुरोध रखुच्छी आज सिम्पोजियम वेलकम एड्रेस।
शुभ संध्या। गोटे छोटिया दुईमत मोर अच्छी मोर परिचय कला बेले गोटे कथा कहगला प्रवीण शब्द यूज करा व्यवहार करागला वास्तविक मु प्रवीण नुहे आउ विशेष सांगठनिक पारदर्शिता मोर नाही। गोटे गाँव रे किछि पिला माने खेलुथिले जड़े पंडित से रास्तार जाऊे देखिले से पिला मानक भितर किसी झगड़ा इत्यादि हेला बेलू गोटे पिला गोटे उच्चा जगह अच्छी से बसी जाऊँगी एवं से बसिला पर सेमानकर झगड़ा को समाधान कर अति चमत्कार बाटे पंडित को आश्चर्य लगे छोट पिलार मन भितर मुंड भितर एत दिव्य ज्ञान आसूची केमती समस्या समाधान कर तो पंडित पचारे जे केमिति एटा संभव हो पारुछि पिलाटी ओल्हेई आसिला एवं परवर्ती समय जनागला जो उच्चा जगहटा माटी पड़िक थिला से माटी तले राजा भोजंकर 32 सिंहासन थिला एवं राजा भोजंकर जो वर्ष वर्ष धरी तांकर जो त्याग तपस्या तांकर जो पारदर्शिता तांकर जो शासन जो विज्ञता थिला सेतिरे से जर्जरित होई कि से सिंहासन प्रभाव रे पिला जते बेले बसुतला त मन भितर गोटे भावना आसुतला सद्भावना आसुतला से सद्भावना बଳରେ समस्यार समाधान करूतला तो कहिया बाहुल्य जे एटी व्यक्ति गुरुत्वपूर्ण नुहे अनुष्ठान गुरुत्वपूर्ण जो दायित्व दिया जाइछि से गुरुत्वपूर्ण से दायित्व मो पर संगठन जे न्यस्त करिसंति से दायित्व आधार रे जहा किछि करि पारुछि गोटे साधारण गाईआळ पिला गाई चरेला भलिया एथिरे विशेष किछि कहिबार नै अधिवक्ता परिषद रो जो निरंतर आईन शिक्षार जो योजना विषय से विषय क्रम रे आजिर ए कार्यक्रम अन्यतम कार्यक्रम ए कार्यक्रम को आपण मानक समस्त को स्वागत सुस्वागतम समस्त को अभिनंदन विशिष्ट वक्ता मानक ठारो आम माने सुनिबा सेमानक पाखरे अनुग्रहित हबा सेमाने हमको आमर प्रज्ञा बलय को प्रसारित करिवे केवल विषय आरंभर गोटे विषय आपण मानक सम्मुख रे रखी देई जिबी महाभारत युद्ध सरी जाइछि भीष्मंकर सरसज्जा पितामह भीष्म अपेक्षा करछन्ति सूर्य महाप्रभुंकर उत्तरायण हला पर से देहत्याग करिवे इच्छा मृत्युर बर पाइतिले राति अधरे भगवान कृष्ण पांडव मानक युधिष्ठिर एवं अन्य पांडव मानक नै भीष्म पितामह पाखक गले भीष्म पितामह पचारुचंती भगवान कृष्ण को हे वासुदेव वसुदेवंकर सुत वासुदेव तुम्हें युधिष्ठिर को धरिक मो पाख आज राति रे काहे के आछछ मते तो संवाद मिलिछि काली सकाळे युधिष्ठिरंकर राज्याभिषेक हबो तो भगवान कृष्ण तांको कहउचंती हे गंगा पुत्र युधिष्ठिर को तुम पाख आनिछि एइथि लागि तुमे तांको राजनीति संपर्क रे टिके शिक्षा दबो राष्ट्र केमिति चळैबे काली सकाळे से विषय शिक्षा दबो तो पितामह भीष्म तांको पचारुचंती हे केशव तमे तो सर्वशास्त्र ज्ञाता सब ज्ञानर मूल तमे भगवान तमे कृष्णस्तु भगवान स्वयं तमे तो भगवान निजे तुमे तो निजे कहि पारि था तो मो पाख आनिल कोन पाई भगवान कहउचंती हे गंगा पुत्र मो पाखे ज्ञान थई पारे किंतु मो पाखे अनुभव नहीं से अनुभव आपनक पाखे अछि तो या परे जते बेले पितामह भीष्म युधिष्ठिर को राज्य शासन संपर्क रे कहउचंती सेतिरे गोटे विशेष कथा अछि महाभारतर शांति पर्वर कथा जे युधिष्ठिर काली सकाळे तुम राज्य शासन करिवो राजा एवं प्रजा शासक एवं प्रजा ये माने गोटे मुद्रार दुई पार्श्व राजा बापा हेले प्रजा माने संतान सेति लागि तुमे जते राष्ट्र निर्माण सकाशे कर आदाय करिवो 6 भागरु 1 भाग कर आदाय करिवो काहाको कष्ट नहला भलिया कर आदाय करिवो आ सेही कर सेही मानक स्वार्थ रे विनियोग करिवो आ विशेष करी प्रजा मानकर कर्तव्य हला राष्ट्र निर्माण रे तांकर योगदान समर्पण स्वरूप जहा किछि राजस्व देबे ताहा कर कवि कालिदास तांकर रघुवंश काव्यर प्रथम अध्याय 18 श्लोक रे मध्य सेही कथा कहिले राजा जते बेले कर नेबे प्रजा जते बेले तांको टिकस देबे ठीक अमृतर बिंदु बिंदु स्वरूप से टिकस एवं ताहा लोकमानंकर लोक कल्याण रे विनियोग हबो राजा तार कस्टोडियन हेबे तो एई विषय रे हमर वक्ता माने कठोर आमे सुनिबा गुरुत्व केते आयकर दबार गुरुत्व केते राष्ट्र निर्माण रे तार योगदान कोन रहिबो ए विषय रे आम माने सुनिबा समस्त को पूरी थरे स्वागत नमस्कार धन्यवाद
परवर्ती कार्यक्रम आपण माने जहां को पाखरु सुनिबा पई आज आपण मानकर मूल्यवान समय देइचंती मो अनुरोध रखुची मान्यवर न्यायमूर्ति संजीव मोर पाणिग्राही महोदय को से तांकर वक्तव्य रखा मान्यवर न्याय
everybody. I must thank Mr. Devashish Tripathi, who has started setting the tone for the current symposium, and I must thank Adhivakta Parishad for inviting me to this beautiful topic. In fact, we have seen many topics, but it is a very unique topic because nobody gives importance to this kind of topic. Income tax return, duty towards nation building, everybody may say, okay, income tax return, it will be fine, but why should there be a discussion on this? Unfortunately, India is one of the lowest, when you talk about tax to GDP ratio, we are one of the lowest. Hence, the contribution of individual, the people who are earning income is very less in the national building process. Of course, the other side, that indirect tax, of course it is there, it is inescapable from, well, the day you birth and just come to the earth till you die, every time tax is settled. There is a saying, tax and death are settled, both are settled. You cannot escape from these two. So, ladies and gentlemen, three things are necessary for the salvation of a man: to know what he ought to believe, to know what he ought to desire, and to know what he ought to do. Today, we gather to discuss a topic that lies at the heart of nation's prosperity and progress: the payment of income tax as a national duty of a citizen. In the context of India, the responsibility is not merely a legal obligation, but a crucial contribution to the nation's development and sustenance. Our great nation, actually we are talking about the income tax, as everybody says every day. The income tax in India is also the slab is very high. It is often also discussed in the circle of the intellectuals. If you have a lower tax rate, there will be the penetration will be more, the tax net will be widened, and there will be more people with the tax net. So the tax compliances will also be more. So this ethos is profoundly rooted to our Indian system, as Devashish was describing. The tax should not be taxing. That is very important. So if you make it more taxing, the person will be definitely there will be a tendency of the people not to pay tax. So the responsibility basically that rests on the individuals who are paying tax, whom we call in the income tax language SSC. So in this way, the taxation money that comes from the individual SSC that is contributed to the nation building. That is the basic philosophy of the tax. So you pay tax and that money is utilized for the welfare of the nation, utilized for the social and economic infrastructure of the country. Unfortunately, in our country, income tax is paid by minuscule percentage of population, that is 7.4 crore only. A nation of 42 crore population, only 7.4 crore population they pay tax. In fact, they file return. I am not saying paying tax. Paying tax, everybody who files return doesn't pay tax. There is a lot of adjustment. And in this earlier year, just some startling statistics, you must know this. In this earlier, there was 2.1 crore people who did not file a tax return, but paid tax deducted at source. Very often you might be receiving your fee from some company, some sources, and he might be deducting the tax at source, but you may not be filing this. We are also noted, Odisha High Court is also another noted. Many of the lawyers, they don't file return. We earn sufficiently, not that, but we don't file return. So that is also duty of every lawyer to file return. Maybe you may file less, more, that's a different issue, but filing a return is a must. It's a cumbersome process. Of course, you are not to be blamed for that. There is so much complexity in the tax filing and all these things also to be blamed. many of us, we don't know how to file a return. We have to depend on a chartered accountant. The chartered accountant will, whatever you say, okay, do this, do that, give me this, give me that, and finally you sign it. That's all. So, so that cumbersome process also often discourages people to file a return. So, in the financial year 2021, effectively there was 8.85 crore people in the tax net, which was 6.6% of our population. Think about, before you spend your precious energy about the country going nowhere, if you just, this is the percentage of taxpayers, where are we then? To understand the significance of our duty, let us embark on a journey through time, drawing the historical examples. The Vashish was talking about some historical example. So, I would quote Adam Smith, who is called the father of economics in the Western world. I would say it's in the Western world because we had many economists like Chanakya also in India, but Chanakya is often forgotten. Adam Smith is called father of economics. Little else is required to carry a state to the highest degree of opulence from the lowest barbarism, but peace, easy taxes, and a tolerable administration of justice, all the rest being brought about by the natural course of things. From the annals of ancient India, we find compelling evidence of concept of duty deeply ingrained in our fabric of society. The term Raja Dharma, the king has to, how the king has to rule the country, that is called the Raja Dharma, meaning the duty of the ruler towards the subjects. That exemplifies the ancient Indian belief that those in position of privilege and power bear a responsibility to ensure the welfare of their subjects. This is the Raja Dharma. At the same time, the duty is cast on the citizen, on the subjects. They, like our fundamental duties. I always just wonder, while just contemplating the amendment of the article incorporating fundamental duty, this should also have been incorporated as a fundamental duty. Filing income tax return should be a fundamental duty. So I think this progressive government at the center might think this also at some point of time, that filing income tax duty should be a fundamental duty. This emphasizes a symbiotic relationship between the ruler and the ruled. Each has obligation. The government has the obligation to take care of the citizen, their welfare, their infrastructure, their everything. At the same time, it is the duty of the citizen to pay the tax in time and to not evade tax. So this is a symbiotic relationship between the ruler and the ruled. So as everybody talks about Chanakya, who was ancient, I would say slightly before medieval in the ancient part, he was one of the famous state, person, a political scientist, you can say, ancient political scientist and also an economist. He has written a beautiful book, Arthashastra. Most of you know that, but I don't know how many of you have read Arthashastra. If anybody wants to read, I have the English version of Arthashastra, I can share with you. He emphasizes the equitable distribution of wealth and necessity of revenue collection for the state's functioning. Without that, state can't run. The concept of Sulka in its Arthashastra, the concept of Sulka, in Odia also we call Sulka, a form of taxation prevalent during the era, signified a citizen's contribution to the state's efforts, state's coffer, and to the state's treasury, what we call, ensuring the provision of essential services and the maintenance of law and order. For maintaining law and order also you need money. From where that money will come? That is definitely from the Shulka. So the historical examples from ancient and medieval India underscores the deep-rooted nature of citizens' duty to contribute to the state's financial well-being through taxation. While its historical context provides a foundation for understanding the concept of duty and taxation within India, it is essential to recognize that these national obligation, what we call the national obligation accord, transcends geographical boundaries. Turning to our gaze beyond our border to see, we find exemplary instances of nations where income tax plays a very pivotal role, fostering social progress and economic stability. Take for instance, in Scandinavian nations, Finland, Yugoslavia and some other nations, they are all Scandinavian countries. They are renowned for their robust welfare system. In Finland, even if you are not doing anything, you are at home, you are a housewife, you are a child, you will get some, what you call, the money from the government. Every month the money will come to your account. Maybe, whatever may be the amount. But, so this is, and welfareism is very high in those countries. There are a lot of, the people are, that's why they are, what you call the World Happiness Index, they are the one of the happiest countries in the world. But doesn't mean, one thing I must dispute, money only is not the only element to give us happiness, but definitely money is one of the major means of giving happiness to the population. So that the Scandinavian countries, they marks one of the most important example of welfareism, and the welfareism because people are very honest in paying taxes. These nations have consistently demonstrated how a well-structured tax system supported by active participation of citizens can lead to unparalleled social security, healthcare, education, thereby enriching the lives of their population. On the other side of the globe, countries like Canada have showcased transformative power of taxation in nation building. Through combination of progressive taxation and a prudent fiscal policies, Canada has been able to invest better investment in infrastructure, innovation and social programs. We are also on that path. Now fortunately we are having more and more money being allocated for the purpose of social welfare and all these things, but far less than these countries I have mentioned. Of course, the fact is their GDP is also very, tax to GDP is very high. In our country, our GDP comes less from our taxation, from the income tax. Of course, our GST now, we are reaching about 9 lakh crores. This is not a small amount. So GST now, for everything we have a GST. So, but income tax front we are very poor. But let me tell you, to understand income tax is a very difficult thing than GST. Mr. Kerr must be in sync with my thought. So you have so many notices, so many circulars, so many things we have to go through when we are arguing an income tax case. It's very not so easy to argue an income tax case. Why it is so? We have made it so complicated. So complicated because we are still that 1860, I think 1860, the William Jones or somebody, the finance minister before the independence, he introduced this income tax, and the same legacy is continuing, and still we are confusing. That's why Indian income tax is called the lawyer's paradise. Because unless you know, of course I would add a chartered accountant's paradise. So, of course, this is a good thing, but for lawyers and chartered accountants like professionals, otherwise how will they survive? But at the same time, because of the excessive complexity in the issue, the common man gets very discouraged. Every time we say when we are talking about filing income tax, there is an issue of so much complex. This deduction, that standard deduction, this, that, so many things, very difficult to understand by common man. Now, when you come to the Indian context, the payment of income tax is not merely a fiscal obligation but a moral responsibility, I would say. I repeat, it is not only a fiscal obligation but also a moral duty, deeply intertwined with the ethos of our country. Our society grows with this public money, that is what we collect from the tax. So in this way, you see, Indian income tax has been, though it is a lawyer's paradise, though it is a complex, still we we are getting some definitely, but the amount we are collecting is very, very low. As I was telling, the percentage of people who are filing return, not necessarily they are paying income tax. We might be filing return with zero tax. That is what that is called the tax planning. The less you pay tax, that is your tax planner is a very successful one. This is the system we follow. So, Manu in his ancient text, she also talks about the importance of paying taxation. According to him, the king should arrange the collection of taxes in such a manner that the subject did not feel the pinch of paying tax. So here we feel the pinch because of the higher tax rate. There are so many slabs. So, and the rate of taxes, if you are above 30%, so if you have a certain income slab, you cross that limit, you have to pay more. So that's the reason why we find more and more there is a tax evasion. So there is one famous scholar, K.B. Sarkar. He comments the system of taxation in ancient India in his book called Public Finance in Ancient India, that is 1978 edition. He has stated, most of the taxes of ancient India were highly productive. The admixture of direct taxes and indirect taxes secured elasticity in the tax system. Although more emphasis was laid on direct tax, the tax structure was a broad-based one and covered most people within its fold. The taxes were varied and large variety of taxes reflected the life of large and composite population. So in ancient India, this system was not there. There everybody was paying taxes. Because of fear, or maybe because of smaller states, the governance was better and the same way tax compliances was also better. Because in this country like India, where you have so much huge population, the tax compliance is a big challenge. You cannot even try to just imagine what is the rate of compliance cost. Even whatever you are getting the tax from our population, the tax SSC. In fact, the compliance cost is sometimes, I would say, more than what we are receiving. That is also another dichotomy in Indian system. So there, at that point of time, the compliance cost was less because they were well governed, small states, population was less. Therefore, everybody was paying tax. So now, at that time, the tax net was very large, very widened. But today, we find the tax net is very, very, you can say contracted. So we need to expand the tax base, and for that, this proposition is very important, and we should think of elevating the duty of filing return to a fundamental duty. I am not saying fundamental right. Duty. Right is a very dangerous concept. If you say right, it will be there will be, I would say, civil war in the country. The government can't have that. So, the basic principle of taxation is the most summarily stated in the second line of sloka in that Manusmriti. Considering the protection of that which is already there and that which is to be increased, the king should levy tax on its traders. That was, of course, indirect tax when we are talking about traders. So, in this way, lot of reference you find in our ancient system regarding the taxation, tax collection, tax administration. But as I have discussed, the role of Arthashastra in delineating the contours of taxation and the taxation power of the state or by the king, this is unique. According to the Mauryan system, so far as the taxation applied to agriculture was a sort of, you say, landlordism was there, of course. Even today you find landlordism is not there, but in a way landlordism is also there. What we find in our country today, what? 20% of the population owns the 80% of the resources. Definitely that is also another sort of landlordism. One person in a particular area will be very, very rich and the other person will be very, very poor. So that gap is expanding gradually. And if you have a more and more tax, I mean people are in the tax net, hopefully more and more money can be pumped into the in what we call the overcoming the disparities between the haves and have-nots. So collection of tax was very well organized at that point of time. Today we need more organized taxation system. Of course our organization we don't see the faceless and all these things. Now the faceless is a big problem again. So in the name of simplifying the collection of tax, again we have to think of some better means. So, and we have tax litigation, though in Odisha we have a tax litigation comparatively very, very minuscule percentage of our litigation. But in big cities like Mumbai and all that, or those states, we have tax. For example, in Hyderabad, about 10,000 pending taxation cases in Hyderabad for state of Telangana. I'm not adding Andhra Pradesh. So, in comparison to those states, our tax litigation is, I'm told it is 1,000 or something odd. So, thank God that 1,000 remains. So, therefore, the tax structure what we have today, it has actually a lot of lacuna. We need to also make it as during the former president when Pranab Mukherjee, when he was the finance minister, he had a notion for making the income tax act into pool. What will be the benefit? These frequent changes, every day you have changes, some circular, something or other. Any government comes, it will have its own notion of tax circular, tax notice, and sometimes also there are lobbyists like big businessmen, business houses. They also, because of the influence in the system, they also get the rule changes which generally favors them. So these kind of changes unnecessarily, and that is done by the government at the behest of these business houses, that is also wrong. So therefore he wanted to have a income tax code like our civil procedure code and this code. So here you find very less number of amendments. So I think in the world, if you ask me, if any act, if any statute which has undergone so many amendments, that is I think income tax. I don't think any other statute has undergone that much changes, as you said, because income tax changes with the whims and fancies of some businessmen in the country. You know whom I am referring to. So, taking the overall view, it can be said without fear of contradiction that Kautilya's Arthashastra was the first authoritative text on public finance, administration and fiscal laws in this country. Unfortunately, there was so beautiful administrative setup was there, the fiscal administration was there, but we went to that some British system, 1860s still ruling. I would suggest why the government is so much interested in changing the IPC, CRPC and others. They should also change this also. This also requires a total change. It requires overhauling. Unnecessary sections should be totally deleted. It can be very simplified and very, I would say, SSC friendly. But unfortunately, that part nobody has looked into. So this legacy of James Wilson should be done away with. Hopefully, this will be done in future. Maybe my expectation would be, I would say, get some color. So the importance of tax in India, when you talk about this and the tax filing of these things, recently one celebrated economist, Thomas Piketty, in his recent visit to India, he has actually created a hue and cry among the political circles and business circles. For his three things he told in public meeting. He said, inequality in India is widening. This is correct, he said, but the government, any government, would not accept it. No, we are improving. Why are you improving? We are improving in the certain pockets. In fact, inequity really widening. He has not said anything wrong, but people criticize him. India's tax to GDP ratio is abysmally low, as I was telling you. So this is also a truth. It can't be denied. The Indian state spends too little on health and education. Of course, thanks to pandemic, government have started thinking about spending more on health. Still, the amount of money, the amount of the percentage of GDP we should spend on our what we call the health sector is very low. It is state like in a country, a small country like Cuba, where you find the right to healthcare is a fundamental right. In a country like South Africa, where they have put the healthcare in the fundamental right bracket, because they spend more than 7-8% of their GDP on healthcare. Where from that money comes? Again, because of the good tax compliance. Again, because the people are paying tax there. So in India, the percentage of spending in the healthcare is below 3%. I think it's below 2%. Exactly, I don't remember, but it's very low. And because of the corona, it might have increased during last 2-3 years, but it is unfortunately very low. Because we are not, the government doesn't bother about the healthcare system. They do bother, but where is the money? When the money is not there, to spend, how can the government will spend money? So therefore, again, because of the deficit in the coffer, the healthcare also suffers a lot. So this statement what he made, it sounded like a cacophony, and many the people in the who are sitting in the ideological fences started criticizing a lot. Regardless of one's views on India's inequality, it is irrefutable that empirical evidence in India will have a twin deficit in our taxation policy. What is the twin deficit? First, Indian taxes its citizen much lower in proportion to its GDP. So our tax to GDP ratio is very low. It is irrefutable. Nobody can deny it. Secondly, the substantive portion of such taxes are collected through largely regressive and distorting indirect rather than direct means. So in indirect tax actually that really helps us in having the infrastructure, health care, and blah blah blah. And thanks to the reform in our indirect taxes after the introducing GDP, though GDP is also suffering a lot of, it is crying for overhauling in a great way. So, but it is still contributing a lot to our economy. See, one extreme spectrum of the country like the Cuba, France, Denmark, Norway. Then Norway is also one Scandinavian country like Finland. Their tax to GDP ratio is about 30%. See where we are below 7%, they are 30% tax to GDP ratio. So therefore, we are from the tax in the Saudi Arabia, the country like Libya and Saudi Arabia, where taxes account for less than 2% of national income. While the latest interim budget unveiled that India's direct tax to GDP, which is the share of taxes in the overall output generated in the country, hit 15-year high. That's 6.11. 6.11 is, we are saying 15-year high means what we were. So we are actually tom-tomming so much about the tax to GDP ratio, 6.11%, but unfortunately again we are in the lower side. So therefore, we have to increase the tax compliances, increase the filing of returns. So income tax is one of the biggest sources of income, as you know, one of the, I say, not the largest source. So it is crying for a huge reform, and to increase the tax net we have to reform the income tax, and also our rate structure has to be simplified. We are putting so much slabs, so many calculations, so many confusion, even the educated man can't do that. So the tax contributes to the welfareism, there is no doubt about that. More than 100 union government schemes in India like employment generation, subsidy, home loan, concession, cooking gas, and so many, and in Odisha like Chata, Jota, everything. That comes from where? That is from this taxation. These schemes benefit millions of Indians. Of course, also make people idle also. Sitting idle also now is becoming a new job for many. In Indian villages, even sitting idle is a new job generation scheme. You give everything, they will not do anything. Simply, they will go to the bank and encash money and they will eat and enjoy. So this is has also increased at the same time. So where is the question of taxation? If you don't generate employment, if you don't generate the substantial income of the public, where is the question of taxation? So our improvement in our social infrastructure, of course, during last 10 years, there has been a huge improvement in the social and economic infrastructure in the country. Especially, I would say, road, railway, airports. These things have actually developed a lot. But thanks to the indirect tax, GST is to get the credit, not the income tax. So in the conclusion, let me tell you one thing: the citizen of this great nation has to pay the income tax. It is a national duty cast upon them, and then only we can have a better infrastructure, better healthcare system, better. We are expecting so much from the government. Government cannot run without the taxation money comes from the people. Of course, we are in the GST indirect tax we are paying, but at the same time, direct tax, there are people who are hugely rich, but they don't pay tax. So that has to be, it is a national duty. Everybody should pay tax. So let's draw our inspiration from our historical text, historical system, and we should, the traditional, what we call the British legacy in taxation structure should be revamped now. There is a greater demand for revamping the structure, and we have to incorporate the payment of income tax explicitly into the chapter of fundamental duties. That is a must. Of course, incorporating income tax payment in the fundamental duty, is it going to change the character of man? No. That unless you have a heightened responsibility, heightened share of your thought, now I am a citizen of the country, I have to pay tax, this is not going to change it. So Mahatma Gandhi once said, I shall work for an India in which poorest shall feel that it is their country, in whose making they have an effective voice. Paying income tax is not just a legal requirement, but a manifestation of our commitment to the collective welfare of our nation. So this is how I would say, for the collective welfare of the nation, for promoting welfareism in the country, for getting more and more money for the welfare schemes, there is a great requirement for the people, more and more people should file the return. Of course, in that process, while filing return, some income tax will be coming to the coffer. So, hope many people will not file zero tax in future, and there will be more and more filing, and it is a duty cast upon every citizen of the country. And let's improve our tax to GDP ratio. Now it is 6.11% in the last budget. At least it should be at least 10% in the next 5 years. Thank you.
I, on behalf of Adhivakta Parishad, we are very much grateful and thanks to my Lord Justice Panigrahi, who has enlightened the taxation process starting from the ancient period to present period, and also enlightened us that is the necessity of the tax for development of the society and human being. And I am very much grateful, we are very much grateful for my Lordship. Vartaman, our परवर्ती कार्यक्रम आमर मुख्य वक्ता जे कि आमर जड़े टैक्स आईनी पितामह वासुदेव पंडा सर, वासुदेव सर को सीनियर एडवोकेट वरिष्ठ आईनजीवी एवं प्रज्ञा तांको अनुरोध करुच्ची टैक्स विषय टिके सम्यक वक्तव्य रखा।
Honorable Justice Panigrahi and Mr. Tripathi, dignitaries of the DAS, and my honorable professional brothers, colleagues, and it is very good subject you have suggested, the income tax return duty towards nation building. When this matter was told me, I am thankful to Sir Babu. He has suggested that Sir, you please speak something about this. I said whatever is possible, but Justice Panigrahi, Dr. Justice Panigrahi, very much cover everything. Nothing is left for me to anyway, the payment of income tax first provision is that the language of the book, language of the law should be simple. Provided 1, 2, 3, 4 like this, B, X, but this lengthy language has become unnecessary, making clumsy, so that one layman cannot be able to follow what the provision of the go on reading like this. So professionals nowadays, they are, because suggesting of filing of return is necessary only for payment of tax, getting a refund, and also carry on the losses when business, profession, trade or any engagement is carried on. Payment of tax has been said by Justice Holmes in the US Supreme Court that taxes are price for the civilization, and tax is paid by the individual bodies, wealth tax, and also corporate bodies, wealth tax, tax or wealth tax, wealth, capital gain, perquisites, and all these taxable goods. When we are going to market and purchasing, tax is deducted at source also. Now, the government, to build up the nation and to carry on the infrastructure, improvement facility, and for rendering medical facility, or carrying on constructive work, etc., its survival necessarily depends on collection of tax. No government can prosper or flourish or exist unless tax is collected, tax is paid. It is our duty, sacred duty, so to say, that we should pay legitimate tax, what is due to us. But payment of tax, holding it, running after litigation, and disturbing my Lord Justice Panigrahi in the Honorable High Court, this is the provision they have taken excessive. Because see what is going. Recently we have come across ED is going everybody's house. Why? Because of hoarding. We are not paying tax, correct tax. So tax should be paid honestly, what my Lord Justice Panigrahi said, honestly, and last, because tax rate has been simplified and has been reduced also, and maximum rate is nowadays starting from minimum rate 2.5%, maximum is 30%, I think. That is for limited purposes. So payment of tax should be beneficial to everybody and for the building of the nation. One may say that, argue that I earn money for my enjoyment. I earn money for my own pleasure. Construction of my own house. Construction of my building, whatever it may be. But it is not the duty really. Tax has to pay because for the nation. We are earning, surviving, and we are carrying on the production, etc. for the nation. Because now the present system, India is heading because to become third largest financial economy in the world. If the tax is collected and the government earns money and government will be third economic power in the world, that is the present system our government, present Modi government has said. So this we should keep in our mind that generously what is due tax for us we have to pay. The country now, the country has to gain financial strength during the present administration and relief, remedy, etc. because we are going to help our brothers, that is other neighboring countries like Afghanistan, Taiwan, Sri Lanka, sometimes Japan, because to giving them any coming to their help because our economic power is now enhanced during the present government system. We are not going for begging for PL 480, what was there in the news time. Then that is those the goods are going to the sea. We are getting for our consumption of our state 4 PL 80. That system is not that we are keeping our heads high. Now we are, because our economic position is so good nowadays,
nobody can say their red eyes that we are poor country. Rather, we are having our correct tax system, and we are now running in a good position now. Albert Marshall has said, taxation the price which civilized community pay for the opportunity of remaining civilized. About Einstein, the hardest thing in the world is to understand tax, that is income tax. Maybe, because if the provision of the statute will be simplified, one can easily understand and pay the duty of the tax. If the tax is real, has to be paid as per the duty of every citizen, and that has been said, Benjamin Franklin, that our constitution nowadays established, everything seems to be proving will be the durable, but in this world nothing is certain except death and tax. Tax is obvious. Death, when death we cannot predict or say, and tax we have to pay, but that must be for the reasonable and what is correct, what my elders said, that we are ready to pay tax, but not that we will go for litigation, not that we will hold this matter and we will go for running after litigation. Tax payment is the lifeblood of the government. Taxpayers should be permitted, not to permitted to escape, because tax is deducted from the salary, tax is deducted on purchases, tax is deducted from what any transaction carried on. But generously we have to pay it, and we cannot hold it or cannot say that avoid this tax cannot be paid. Because of going to the financial position of the country nowadays, I can say, the professional as a whole, our responsibility, what my Lord Justice earlier said, we have to educate the taxpayers, filing of a return. Filing of a return is such a big system, has such a voluminous, that one cannot easily understand what I have to fill and what I have to furnish in the government. The payment of duty of tax would be required for the development of the country, as I said, upholding and preserving the civilization and return for the dignity and to enforce the reputation of the country. So our country, the reputation of the country can be preserved if we are economically sound, if taxes have been paid and collected properly. But nowadays, hoarding, every day the ED is running, even so many chief ministers, so many politicians, and so many persons now under the ED surveillance. Why? Because hoarding of tax. Recently, something came from Jharkhand, etc. Bundles of money, bag and bag, that currency, everything we have because hoarding of government revenue. The evasion of a tax is a crime, what has been said by the people, the authors, and also the country cannot survive if the evasion will occur. So looking at the circumstances, situation of the country, we should be generous that our country for running railway, for running our nation, running our civilization, and doing the favorable conditions of the people, so payment of tax should be generous, payment of tax should be made. Recently, now about launching of Chandrayaan-3, that is, or more satellites to different planets. How can be possible when tax is collected, tax is paid, and the government is sufficiently equipped with funds? How will survive? So tax is necessary everywhere. Tax, payment of tax, but due tax, not that arbitrarily, not that we can possibly, not that we will compare, not that we will be said that we have to pay, bound to pay. But generously one has to pay without stealing or without hoarding or without evading or evading. That should be there. Nowadays, payment of a tax started from payment of salary, and getting refund also. And sometimes we are avoiding the refunds and going back, let the tax will not pay and want to get the refund. How long will we avoid ourselves? How long we can evade? Fortunately or unfortunately, matter is coming for their surveillance and people are coming and we have not paid this. So this thing we have to keep in mind because we have to survive. We can civilize the country and taxation prepare. Nowadays, chartered accountants, advocates, professionals are there. They are also helping us to how to prepare your return, how to make yourself disclose everything. Every time that the government is making disclosure scheme, amnesty scheme. Why? Because of coding. Because tax compliance is very poor. Because we are concealing the payment. So taxation system now has become should be rampant, and there should not be any amnesty scheme, I think. Rather, we should provide people that will pay tax. We provide people that will educate people pay tax, but is due to you. Therefore, no government, no country can survive unless tax is paid. Tax is the largest revenue so far is called, starting from 2.5% to 2.5% to 30%. That is very nominal. 30% maximum. That is only maximum. But
115 BB is there 65%.
yes, you are correct. Because that should be reduced, and also sometimes people, why 100 BB that? Because we are committing that crime. So nothing can be possible with the approach. So we should approach the government, and in case there is hardship, etc., we get installments, etc., we can also ask for reducing the liability. So it is primarily our duty. So taxation, once it said that we are going to purchase our civilization, so payment of tax, and nothing can be possible, that is because it is a lifeline of the government, blood of the government. So taxation, death and taxation, that is a must. It cannot be avoided, or cannot be evaded, or cannot be neglected. Therefore, my sincere request regarding filing of return is as it is sacred duty. Payment of a tax is also a noble duty, and payment of a tax to government means a building nation. And how many persons now, what my Lord Justice Panigrahi said, negligible persons are paying, 42 crore people are there. Only 7.5% like that are paying. That is, yes. That should be the generous people, and we should not say HUF should not say go for farms, go for different companies, we can't go for AOP, all these things, because to avoid this tax. And whenever going to get any payment, etc., we face the difficulties. So payment of the tax should be benevolent, and the selection what has been made, that filing of a return, how it is helped in a country, nation, that we have already, my Lord Justice Panda has already expressed. So it is a sacred duty. This much I can say. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Stay welcome.
Thank you, sir. Really, we are enlightened about the taxation and the tax will pay, how the tax will pay, and how the necessity of the tax in the society. आमर परवर्ती कार्यक्रम परवर्ती पर्व वर्तमान आमर अतिथि माननको फेलिसिएशन पर्व वर्तमान मु अनुरोध करुछि ज्ञानलोक महांती जे कि पूर्वतन संपादक अधिवक्ता परिषद फेलिसिएशन करिवे हमर ऑनरेबल जस्टिस पाणिग्राही को पुष्पगुच्छ एवं साल दे। अनुरोध रखुछि आमर अन्य जड़े पूर्वतन अधिवक्ता संपादक तुषार गांधी शतपथी मध्य फेलिसिएट करेंगे आमर मुख्य वक्ता वासुदेव सार को। वासुदेव परवर्ती कार्यक्रम आमर अधिवक्तार प्रेसिडेंट अजित कुमार पट्टनायक को अनुरोध करुँच प्रेसिडेंट स्थित
सम्मान्य न्यायमूर्ति वरिष्ठ अधिवक्ता श्रीयुक्त पंडा, उपसभापति संघमित्रा, देवाशीष भाई, आगरे उपस्थित समस्त वरिष्ठ अधिवक्ता माने एवं भाई माने भौणी माने, ये आज जो विषय बिंदु अच्छी ता उपरे समस्ते आम सारगर्भक तुलनात्मक समस्त विषय शुणी सारे एवं मु भावुची ये उपस्थित अधिकांश अधिवक्ता भाई भौणी माने इनकम टैक्स रो प्रैक्टिस रे माहिर। तेणु मु मोटे के इनकम टैक्स रो धार धारिनी मु मोर इनकम टैक्स फाइल करने अन्य जड़े मोर जूनियर अधिवक्ता इनकम टैक्स रो मोर चैम्बर रे काम करथिले करचंदी तांको सहयोग लिए। तेणु ता संबंध रे मु कहले माँ पाखरे मामू घर को रास्ता देखा भली कथा हम। एठी गोटे कथा न कही रही नहीं। अधिवक्ता परिषद सबु बेले कहे एवं अधिवक्ता परिषद लक्ष्य मध्य समाज रे थिबा शेष वर्गर व्यक्ति को न्याय प्रदान करवा एवं न्याय प्रदान करने पाई भाषा एक माध्यम। आमे समस्ते को भाषा रे कथा कहूचे विशेष भाव में तो उच्च न्यायालय उच्चतम न्यायालय मानकरे भाषागत व्यवस्था अलग अच्छी, किंतु जदि आमे जो नीच निम्न अदालत मान को जीवा देखा जे सेठी साक्ष्य ग्रहण होता है आ मुदला तार ठिया ही थाए तार काठ गड़ारे कौन कुहा होची से जानू न थाए से कौन प्रश्न करुचंदी एवं वकील बाबू कौन ताको उत्तर से कौन करुची एवं जज कौन डिक्टेशन दौरान किछि से जानू न थाए कहीं ना तार भाषागत तार से ज्ञान नाही, इंग्लिश रे ज्ञान नाही। एबे अल्प दिन तले गोटे आंध्र प्रदेश रु केस टी आसला ताको स्टडी करला बेलू तार संपूर्ण लेखा तेलुगु रे हेछि। मु गोटे तेलुगु बंधु को डाकिली जे को टिके पढ़ंतु एवं बतई दियंतु कौन हम। मोर कहिबार कथा होछि आज होछि आमे भाषार व्यवस्था रे ओडिसा रे मध्य बसिचे, किंतु एठी आम पाखरे मान्यवर न्यायमूर्ति अछंती जे निजे आ जजमेंट ओडिया रे लिखचंती। सेथिबाई एई दिन बहुत खुशी लागिथिला जे आमे जो भाषा आंदोलन करबा को जाउछु से भाषा आंदोलन रो व्यवस्था रे जने व्यक्ति किए ना किए उच्चतम न्यायालय उच्च न्यायालय रे आम पाखरे बसिछन। आ गोटे कथा आमे समस्ते दुईटा कथा एथरे इनकम आउ टैक्स रोजगार तापर कर। रोजगार को आगे जेमती कहले जे आज अनेकंक घरे ईडी पशुची ता कारण होची जे आमे रोजगार को लुचेइचे। आमे रोजगार को जदि उपयुक्त भाव रे देखै थांते एवं ताकू उपयुक्त भाव रे कर देई थांते ताले एते समस्या हो न थांता। लुचिगिरी कई 6 थर 7 थर लखे ईडी रो समय को अवॉइड कर न थांते। कोठी ना कोठी गोटे भूल अछि। तेणु ए माने आंदोलन को आसुचंदी व्यवस्था को आसुचंदी आमर जो आईनगत परिधि भीतर आईन परिधि भीतर को से आसुचंदी। केही केबे छाती रे हाथ बाड़े की कहि पार ना आ जे कहउचंदी वर्तमान बहुत जे 6 थर अवॉइड कलेनी 7 थर अवॉइड कलेनी नोटिस को से निजे कोठी जणे इनकम टैक्स रो कमिशनर ना डेप्यूटी कमिशनर कौन थिले मु भाबुची बोधे ज्ञान तांगर थिबो किंतु अवॉइड करके लोकन को माने घुआ बुलेया पय भूता बुलेया पय एभली व्यवस्था रे व्यक्ति जदि उच्च जागा रे बसे सबठो उच्चतम स्थान रे जदि जने व्यक्ति एभली व्यक्ति बसे ताले कोन परिस्थिति हबो आमे सब चिंता करथिबा। निजर रोजगार अनुसार टैक्स दवा ये आउ गोटे कथा छोटिया कथा कह समस्त आम कौटिल्य अर्थशास्त्र कथा एवं व्यवस्था कथा कहूचे किसी जगार लोक मैंने भी जुक्ति करुँच जदिओ से जुक्ति आम ग्रहण करवा ना जे आम टैक्स देले कौन हम तो किए ना किए खाई जाऊँ ये कौटिल्यंकर गोटे छोटिया कथा कहि थरे आउ चाणक्य तांको घरे राजकार्य दीपटे लगे व्यस्त अच्छा आठी चीन परिव्राजक आसिले पाखे पहुँचले आ पहुँचला किसी समय से बसला ये राजकार्य सारिले से पाखरे थिबा दीपटी की लगे देकिरी तापर तांकर संगे कथा हेले से पचारे से जो परिव्राजक चीन रो जे आपण गोटे दीप लगे तो कथा होते से दीपटर आलोक आम दुई जन जाक बस कथा ही पारि था से लिभे दे आउ गोटे कहीं लगेले से कहले वर्तमान पर्यंत जो कार्य करुली ये राजकार्य करुली तेणु राजा प्रदत्त तेल ये दीपटी जलुला आ वर्तमान मुझ सहित कथा आप कार्य आसी जाने आपंकर मोर व्यक्तिगत कथा है तेणु मो पाखरे मते दरमा दि जाउथिबा तेलर पैसा मुझे दीपटी जलैली आउ तेणु आपंकर मोर आम कथा तेणु से भाव में जदि दुईटी जाक पार्श्व चलो करदाता एवं कर को खर्च करुवा 8,000 कोटी टंकार प्रकल्प तैयारी करवा न करी आउ कौन करुवा ठीक रे खर्च करुवा जदि व्यवस्थित ढंगर ऑफिसर माने पड़े जो माने खर्च करुछंती करदाता माने सेतिके बेले निश्चित भाव में खुशी हेबे जे मो देइथिबा करटी उचित विनियोग होइछि तेणु दुईटा जाक पार्श्व ठीक चलवा दरकार आ सेथिपाई व्यक्तिर निर्माण दरकार व्यक्तिर निष्ठा दरकार व्यक्तिर जदि निष्ठा नथिबो हबो नाही मु केते रोजगार करूछि मु सेकु देली ना नाही मु सेठी मोर एतिकी रोजगार अछि मु से रोजगार को देखैली ना नाही ये सब व्यवस्था मध्य रहिबा दरकार जहा धीरे 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 आमे समस्ते जेमिति पानी माने क्षीर पोखरी करबा पय राजा घोषणा कले आ समस्त जाइके जो माने राजार प्रजा समस्ते ढालिबे क्षीर नेगिरी ढालटिए लखे ढालिबे क्षीर लिटर 5 लिटर 10 लिटर जे जहा पाइबे आ सकाळ को क्षीर पोखरी हेइथिबो बोली राजा भाबिले सकाळ जेतेबेले देखा गला जे क्षीर पोखरी नाही सबतक पानी रो पोखरीटी हेछि ता कारण जे समस्ते भाबिले जे से 5 जन जाक तो से 5,000 लोक तो क्षीर ढालिबे मु ढालटे पानी ढाल देले जाना पड़ियो किंतु ढालू ढालू समस्ते एई भावना रे रहिले जे आमे समस्ते अन्य माने क्षीर ढालिथिबे मु पानी ढालुची देखला को मु भी पानी ढालची से भी पानी ढालचंदी से भी पानी ढालचंदी समस्ते पानी ढालिले से सब क्षीर पोखरी मध्ये पानी पोखरी हे गला तेणु व्यक्तिर निर्माण व्यक्ति चरित्र जदि राष्ट्र चरित्र सहित जोड़ी हेबे तेबे नेशन बिल्डिंग रे इनकम टैक्स रो जो कथा हमें कहूचे ताहा ही होई परिबो नहले केबे भी हेई परिबो नाही आमे एमती भाषण भावना इत्यादि इत्यादि रे चलिबा तेणु व्यक्ति निर्माण राष्ट्र निर्माण जदि व्यक्ति निर्माण हबो इनकम टैक्स ठीक रे दबो ए राष्ट्र पय तार कर्तव्य रहइबो तार कर्तव्य बुझिबो जोटा आज्ञा कहतिले जे इनकम टैक्स ड्यूटी रे जाओ फंडामेंटल ड्यूटी रे जाओ आजिर दिन रे समस्ते कर्तव्य कथा कहीं बुझुना केवल राइट 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 मोर केते मोर अधिकार अच्छी समस्ते चिंता कर मोर केते कर्तव्य अच्छी केवे चिंता करूना एक देश में जनगण मन न बोलिया कि निर्माण होता व्यक्ति से एक कथा केवे चिंता ही करिवो नाही जे मो टैक्स देबी आउ जाके माने राष्ट्र गठन रे मोर शामिल हेबी एक कथा केवे भाबी भी परिवो नाही तेणु सेही भली व्यक्तिर आज आवश्यकता अछि जो माने ये राष्ट्र गठन पाई निजको निर्माण करिवे एवं निजर त्याग जे मो जीवन पछे नरके पड़ी थाउ जगत उद्धार हेउ ये शब्द कहूथिबा ए माटी एतिकी जिनस समस्त को शिखेवा दरकार जे मु जहा करूची समस्त को पाखरे कोरा कागज खोला देखैबी तेणु मु निश्चित भाव में ए राष्ट्र निर्माण रे जने संग्रामी हेबी आ जने सहयोगी हेबी एई भली व्यवस्था रे राष्ट्र निर्माण हो पारिबो एवं इनकम टैक्स जो माने दियंती अधिक रोजगार व्यक्ति माने दियंती तेणु जे कम रोजगार सी केबे टैक्स दौ नाही तेणु जो व्यवस्था अच्छी जो 1/6 कहले गोटे 1/8 होईची विभिन्न कथा एथिरे अछि थरे अभाव पड़िले कोठु आसो ना टैक्स रो आसो आ जनता पाखरु टैक्स आसो थरे अभाव पड़िला राजांकर आ से चिंता कले जे राजकोष शून्य हो गलानी कौन करवा तांकर पार्षद जने थिले आमे समस्त जानि जे बीरबल बोली तांको गोटे दिन पाई ये सब टैक्स रो फैक्स रो दायित्व से गले मते 7 दिन पाई कि दायित्व दियंतु मु राजकोष रो व्यवस्था देखि अर्थ मंत्री राजस्व मंत्री सब एकाठी तांग कर दिया गला आजिकल मंत्री व्यवस्था न थाए तो से हठात तांगर किछि अमीन को चेयरमैन को सब डाकी दे कहले ये शहरटा जाक मापी दियो आ मापी देले कोन आमे समस्त जानिछे कटक तो छोट गली आज्ञा कहना टिके 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 मु मडेली सेटी मडेला सेटी मडेला सेटी मडेला हे कि समस्त मडे चलले तेणु सी से भी से अवस्था होती जिते माप करदे देखिले सब नालिगार मार दियो भंगा हम आजिकल राजनेता माने ये जो निर्वाचन समय पूर्व सब व्यवस्था करती जे किसी लोक लगे दे सरकारी ऑफिसर को लगे दे माप कर दे चिन्ह मार दियंती तापर संगे संगे एकाठी होइबे लोक किछि व्यवस्था माने जिनस पळेबो जो माने आरंभ करथिबे सेमानक पळेला पर तापर आज्ञा कुआडे सोई जाय से कोल्ड स्टोर भितर से व्यवस्था आ जणा पड़ी सेतेले मध्ये बीरबल सेया करथिले जेते माप करदेले समस्ते आश्चर्य होगले एते भांगी जो हम करियो सम करियो तापर दिन से कहले ना ना भांगियो नाही तुमे सब सरकार को टैक्स दे दियो एटा रेगुलराइज हे जीवो तो तापर टैक्स पर टैक्स दे चला और तापर 7 दिन पर देखला को ए व्यवस्था टा गोटे कथा कहूची ए भले अर्थ व्यवस्था टा आरंभ करी सब व्यवस्था रे इनकम टा आरंभ करी सब व्यवस्था जगी देले 7 दिन तापर राजकोष आज्ञा भरपूर तेणु आईनगत भाव में कठोरता अवलंबन करी आजिकल सब करने बाध्य होउछंदी समस्ते बा सरकारी अधिकारी माने जो जो अधिकारी माने किंतु आमर स्वतः जो भावना जे मु निजे करिवि मो निज आडू किछि करिवि एभली भावना निर्माण होबा पाई कि एक व्यवस्था दरकार जो व्यवस्था रे व्यक्ति निर्माण हबो एवं से राष्ट्रभक्त जने हबो एभली एक भावना आमे समस्ते नबा आज कार्यक्रम रे जो मान्यवर न्यायमूर्ति आमर मुख्य वक्ता महोदय जी जिनस आम आगे रखिले आम जो चिंता करवा एवं ए राष्ट्र निर्माण पाई तांकर वक्तव्यर सार को आम ग्रहण करवा तेबे आम समस्त निश्चित भाव में यह शुभंकर हो एति कही मोर वक्तव्य सांगुरजी वंदे मातरम भारत माता।
धन्यवाद माननीय अजित भाई समस्त सम्माननीय वक्ता मानकर विषय को लेकर अजित भाई आपण मान सम्मुख रे गोटे सारांश रखिले या परे परवर्ती पदक्षेप को जीवा पूर्व मु आपण मान सम्मुख रे गोटे सूचना रखिबी जे आमर एई जो भाबरे जो कंटिन्यूअस लीगल एजुकेशन जो व्यवस्था चली कार्यक्रम चली यार परवर्ती चरण रे आसंता मार्च मास 15 तारिख संध्या रे स्थान कोठी जणै दिया जीवो परे आर्ट ऑफ क्रॉस एग्जामिनेशन विषय रे आमर पुनश्च कार्यक्रम हेबो आपण मान को अवगति पई जणै दउची मार्च मास 15 तारिख संध्या रे स्थान परवर्ती समय जणै देबा विषय आर्ट ऑफ क्रॉस एग्जामिनेशन एबे कार्यक्रम को आगु नवा पई अनुरोध करू।
धन्यवाद अजित भाई आपंकर सभापतित्व द्वाही दे सभापतित्व अभिभाषण प्रदान कले तेणु परवर्ती कार्यक्रम आमर जमी यज्ञर शेष थाए यज्ञर पूर्ण हुए जो यज्ञ आहुति दि जाए पूर्ण आहुति से कार्यक्रम को आम बर्तमान से पर्याय आम पहुँचीचु मु अनुरोध रखी संघमित्र रायगुरु को से आज यही सभार धन्यवाद अर्पण करिवार कार्यक्रम
मंचासीन सम्माननीय ऑनरेबल डॉक्टर जस्टिस संजीव कुमार पाणिग्राही महोदय, श्री बासुदेव पंडा सीनियर एडवोकेट आज मुख्य वक्ता महोदय, अजित भाई आम अधिवक्ता परिषद सभापति और संपादक देवाशीष भाई, आगरे बसी बहु मान्यगण्य मोर भाई माने और भौणी माने आउ समस्त उपस्थित छोट बड़ भाई भौणी माने, निश्चित भाव में शेष पर्वर शेष दायित्वटी संपन्न करने मत दि जाइथिबारु मु निश्चित भाव में खुशी अनुभव करुछि। एटा गोटे किछि कम कथा नुहे जे गोटे जेकोसी शुभ काम सरिला बेलू आउ गोटे नुआ काम आरंभ होबार जो आशा ताकु नहीं आमे जिबा देवाशीष भाई सूचना देले समर्पित भावना नहीं कि माँ भारती पई काम करबा होची प्रत्येक नागरिकर मुख्य दायित्व और कर्तव्य। अजित भाई खूब प्रांजल भाव में बुझे देले सेटा किछि बड़ कथा नुहे कहीं ना आम मनरे जदि से भावनाटी जागृत हम ताहले आम प्रत्येक निजे राष्ट्र निर्माण दिगरे निश्चित भाव में बहुत भल काम करिपरिबा जहाँ राष्ट्र को आग को नवाई साहाय्य करिवो। जेमिति कि गोटे छोटिया उदाहरण गोटे मिठाटी जदि दि जाउची सेतर खाइला बेले किछि पड़ी जाउची तळे ता परदिन स्वच्छ भारत रे से अलिया गदा को चली जाउची सेही मिठाटी दबा पूर्व जदि हमको कहा जाउची प्रसाद टिके नियंतु आज्ञा तळे पड़ी गले आमे ताको गोटे की मुंडरे मारिकी खाउचे। तफात होची सेतिकी निजर समर्पित भावनार तफात सेतिकी आमे निजको समर्पित करिवा पई जदि निजे तयारी करिवा ठीक जेमिति सियाचेन ग्लासियर रे -50 डिग्री 60 डिग्री सेंटीग्रेड रे सैन्यटी आम देशर सीमा जगुची ताको कष्ट होनी से ठंडा शीत आमे जदि निजको राष्ट्र निर्माण रे नियोजित करिवार मन को दृढ़ करिवा आम पई किछि असुविधा आसीबोनी। सर्विस टू मैनकाइंड इज सर्विस टू गॉड अर्थटी को केतेकांश रे भूल भाव रे हमको बुझाई दिया जायछि किंतु ताहा नहे जे केवल दरिद्र नारायण को सेवा ही ईश्वर सेवा। यार प्रकृत अर्थ होची जो पोजिशन रे रुहंतु जज हुअंतु अधिवक्ता हुअंतु किरानीटी हुअंतु कृषकटी हुअंतु सबु जगह रे जो कामटी आमे करिबा ताहा जेपरी राष्ट्र निर्माण पई हप कहार क्षति हो नथिबो तेबे जाय कि ताहा होची ईश्वर सेवा। आ विशेष किछि कहिबेनी काहे ना आमे वर्तमान शेष पर्व रे पहुंचीचे। आज जो मूल्यवान समयटी को गोटे वर्किंग डे रे व्यस्तबहुल कार्य व्यस्तता भितरु मान्यवर न्यायमूर्ति डॉक्टर संजीव कुमार पाणिग्राही आमको देइचंती सेतिपई मो अधिवक्ता परिषद तरफरु हार्दिक कृतज्ञता ज्ञापन करने सहित धन्यवाद ज्ञापन करुछि। सीनियर एडवोकेट श्रीजुक्त बासुदेव पंडा सर आमर गुरुजी आमर गुरु और पूज्य बड़ भाई कहले अत्युक्ति हब नहीं बहुत ज्ञान अनेक तांको शिक्षा लाभ करिसंती। आज से तांकर मध्य जो मूल्यवान समयटी को देइचंती सेतिपई तांको मध्य अधिवक्ता परिषद ओडिशा चैप्टर तरफ हार्दिक कृतज्ञता सहित धन्यवाद ज्ञापन करुछि। आउ मोर एटी उपस्थित थिबा समस्त भाई भौणी माने निज निजर व्यस्तता भितरे मध्य आज वर्किंग डे काली भी वर्किंग डे अच्छी निजर चैम्बर रे बहुत काम थिबो तथापि निजर समय बाहर करके एठी आसिके एते संख्या रे उपस्थित रही आज कार्यक्रमटी को सफल करिवार सहायक हेइछंती सेथिपई मु हार्दिक कृतज्ञता आमर अनुष्ठान तरफ ज्ञापन करुछि। ता सहित आमर ए कार्यक्रम को सफल करिवार जो जो मानकर हाथ रहिछि समस्त को मोर हार्दिक कृतज्ञता सहित आगामी कार्यक्रम पाई मार्च मासर आगामी कार्यक्रम पाई आपण मानकर सहाय्य सहयोग कामना करिबि। भारत माता की जय। वंदे मातरम।
परवर्ती हमर जनगण मनोदी दयाकरी समस्ते निज निज जगह रे ठिया जान। जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंधु गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तब शुभ नामे जागे तब शुभ आशीष मागे गाये तब जय गाथा जनगण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे। भारत माता की जय।